Well, happy Wednesday, disc golf fam, and today I'm taking a look at a disc that, for whatever reason, seems to be pretty polarizing, and that is the Prodigy M1 Midrange. So, I've been throwing these for just short of a year. I was a barred thrower for a long time as my main backhand mid-range, and when those became really hard to find last year, and I'm down to a few really good bards left, I started looking around for another disc to fill that slot. I threw rocks, I threw ghosts, I tried Buzz, the Yukun Yao actually was pretty close. But I got a couple Infinite Disc mystery boxes right around Christmas, and a couple of them had some Prodigy 300 M1s. I got a pink one and a green one. I threw it around on the course a few times. I made a video about it. Check that out if you haven't seen it. Not about the M1, about the mystery box and those discs. Threw it really well. And if you haven't felt one before, it is essentially very similar to an end of a rock, but it has no bead, so it's slightly shallower. It's scooped out like that. It has a slightly more tapered finish, and really looks a ton like the Bard, but even just a tiny bit shallower with no bead. And the Bard doesn't really have a big bead, not like a rock, but this is kind of like one step further towards the beadless, very modern feel, even than the Bard is. Other discs in this category kind of fall under like the Discmania Method is pretty close. The Discraft Wasp is on the same part of the spectrum. And reading through the reviews that you guys have left on Infinite Disc, it seems like people either love this disc or don't care for it at all. And looking at the stamp of here, I have this nice 300 one. This is one of my mystery box ones, and then I got a 400 plastic. I have two different 400 plastic ones. I've got this pink one and then the orange one you'll see in the video. That one actually had like 15 stamps on it when I got it, so I wiped all those off with some nail polish remover and drew a Coheed and Cambria keywork on it because Coheed and Cambria is awesome, M1's awesome. Thought I'd just put those two together. And if you take a look at either one of these discs, the information we are given: Prodigy M1 mid-range disc, 400 plastic, or Prodigy M1 mid-range disc, 300 plastic. And if you look at the disc in any plastic it's produced in, it's basically that. Very minimal basic information, no flight numbers, which is standard for Prodigy, and it just says mid-range disc. But if you're familiar with the Prodigy naming scheme, they go letter and then number. The lower the number, usually the more overstable the disc is. They've had some hiccups with that, but that is generally how it goes. I would say a lot of the Prodigy throwers you see around have the M2 or the M4. M4 is kind of like a comet, M2 is kind of like a rock. M1 should be pretty overstable, right? Not really. And that's where our problem with some of the reviews seems to come in. So I took it on two different courses. The first course you'll actually see is Oregon Park, playing the silver to gold layout, and then at Deerfield Park in Cartersville, playing the standard 20-hole layout there. So a few holes from each place. I'm mainly throwing the orange 400G and this pink 300G, or another pink 300G that's exactly the same as this one. So hope you guys like it, get a good feel for the disc, and I'll do a short rundown on it at the end. So as you guys can see, the M1 is a really nice do-it-all type mid-range. I don't really like it for forehand. It's easy for me to just get a teensy tiny bit of too much turn with it, whether that's due to, you know, not perfect form or just the fact that it's not really that overstable. Either one of those excuses is valid. But as you can see, it holds a hyzer really well. It'll flip up, get some nice forward penetration with a moderate fade. If you give it a little bit of height, you can push it out there pretty good with a little bit harder fade. And if you saw a few of those holes where I threw it flat or just the tiniest bit of anhyzer, it would come up and hold that line basically all the way to the ground and start to flatten out. But we're talking near 300 feet with a nice turnover line, much like a worn-in rocker buzz, which this kind of is. The premium plastic ones have some flashing. They start out a tiny bit more overstable, but not really overstable. We're not talking about just this deflector type territory here. More like Champ Rock, TI Drone, something like that. And as they wear in, they can really fill that do-it-all mid-range slot for you really, really well. I like to carry one in each plastic because of feel. Sometimes I like that little bit beefier, stiff, premium plastic feel, and sometimes, especially when I'm playing at courses that can get wet, like Deerfield, Etowah, you like that little bit grittier, tackier feel that the 300 plastic has. It's really nice. It reminds me a little bit of a slightly more durable BT medium from Westside, or Zero medium, and whatever the heck they call it for dynamic discs. So I like to carry both, and I think that the problem that we have here is this disc is a victim of the Prodigy naming system. M1 denotes it should be a very overstable mid-range. The D1, the A1, they're really, really overstable. The X1's so overstable that you can't even find them anymore. They don't even bother to make them. But the M1 here, not really that overstable. It's like a Champ Rock, which is stable, but it's not really that overstable. I think we have a branding issue. So if this was called, like, I don't know, the Discmania Intrepid, or the Innova, whatever animal you care to think of, I don't know, Stag Beetle, whatever, this would be a very popular disc. As it is, I think people are getting it thinking they're getting a really overstable mid-range, and they're not. But if you try it on a lot of lines, you throw it, you get it worn in, I think it'd have a lot of fans. And the ratings support that. All the people giving it 4 and 5 stars on Infinite, I think they get it, and it really rates out pretty good. It's nearly a 4.5 rating. It was 4.4 something when I checked yesterday. And if no new reviews are in, it's probably still about there. Hope you guys check one of these out. It's probably the most underrated disc currently in production by Prodigy. I won't say in totality, there are a lot of underrated discs out there, but by Prodigy, I think this guy is really, really worth a look. And it seems like me and Seppo Payo are the only people throwing them. So go out there and grab you a 300 M1 and chuck it on some hyzer lines. I think you'll like it. Have a good day.